I never imagined a millionaire would pick me, but my heartwarming act left everyone in tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The world around me felt heavy, like the air was thick with despair. I stood at the bus stop, shivering in my worn-out coat, feeling invisible. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, each thud reminding me of bills overdue and promises broken. I had always dreamed of something more, yet here I was, lost in the shadows of the city, struggling to find hope. That day, as I watched the rain streak down the window of the cafe across the street, I felt the weight of my loneliness settle in. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a reminder from my sister, urging me to come home for dinner. Evelyn always believed in me, even when hope felt like a distant star. I could hear her soft laughter, like a balm soothing my worries. But that day, fate had something unexpected in store. A fancy black car pulled up beside me, the engine purring like a beast ready to strike. The door swung open, and out stepped a man in a tailored suit, his gaze piercing and intense. I thought, for a moment, he must be some kind of movie star. I held my breath, paralyzed by curiosity and fear. His eyes caught mine, an electric charge pulsing between us. I could sense the weight of wealth surrounding him, a stark contrast to my worn sneakers and frayed jeans. But there was something in his expression, a hint of desperation, perhaps. I couldn't look away. It felt unreal, as if the world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us standing on that rainy street. Then, the moment shattered. I noticed a tear streak down his cheek, glistening like a jewel, and my heart ached for him. "I need help," he said, his voice trembling. My chest tightened. What could I possibly offer? I stepped closer, adrenaline rushing through me. "What do you need?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. How could I be brave when I was so scared? His expression shifted, surprise flickering in his eyes. "You? A hero?" I swallowed hard, feeling both honored and terrified. Before I could respond, he leaned in closer and added, "You won't believe it, but I can give you everything, if you agree to help me." In that instant, the world around me blurred, and I could feel the reality of my struggles pulling me down. Could I trust a stranger with my dreams? And just like that, I found myself stepping into the unknown, the sensation electric and terrifying. What lay ahead was a mystery waiting to unfold, a path leading me away from my broken life. Would I regret it? Or was this the moment everything began to change? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The city felt different in the days that followed our peculiar encounter. The rain had washed away some of the darkness that clung to me, yet new shadows crept in, questions and doubts coiling like smoke around my mind. I couldn't shake the memory of that moment at the bus stop, the man's tear, the intensity of his gaze, and those words that glimmered with both promise and peril. I stood at the coffee shop window, the same one that had witnessed my quiet despair before. Through the glass, I watched the world bustling by, vibrant and alive. People chatted, laughed, and worried over their lives, blissfully unaware of the turn that mine had taken. I clutched my coffee cup, feeling its warmth seep into my fingertips, hoping it would infuse some courage into my heart. "Evelyn," I whispered, thinking of my sister and the way she would smile at any glimmer of good news. Yet now, all I had were tangled emotions, a deal with a stranger, and an anxiety that felt insurmountable. Could he truly help me? In search of clarity, I decided I needed to meet him again. The next evening, I found myself standing on the same corner where we first met. My heart raced as I surveyed the street, half expecting him to materialize out of nowhere. Just as I began to doubt he would come, the sleek black car pulled up, the engine's low purr sending a shiver down my spine. That he stepped out, looking every bit as polished and composed as before, but there was a deeper line etched on his forehead. "I'm glad you came," he said, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of troubled emotions. "Why me?" I asked, stepping closer, compelled by an instinct that told me the truth lay cloaked in the depths of his stormy eyes. "That I see something in you." He paused, seeking the right words. "You have a fiery determination that's rare. But it goes beyond that." His gaze fell to the ground, burdened with thoughts. "I need someone real, someone who understands struggle." His vulnerability caught me off guard, and I felt my defenses begin to crumble. Maybe we were both just echoes of our pasts, searching for connection in a world that felt too big and too unforgiving. "Let me show you," he said suddenly, breaking the silence that hung between us like fragile glass. "I need your help for a project, and in return, it will change everything for you." I hesitated. The idea of stepping into his world was both thrilling and terrifying. "What project?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "An outreach program for those struggling to find their way. We can help people, provide resources, and make a difference. I could use your insight, your experience." Hope flickered like a candle in the darkness of my mind. Helping others, the thought filled me with purpose, but a nagging fear surfaced. What if it was just another ploy? Just then, a weathered man with disheveled hair approached us, clutching a tattered backpack. His eyes darted between us, and for a moment, time paused. "Excuse me," he stammered, "I don't mean to intrude, but I overheard you talking about helping people." The man in the suit stiffened, his body language shifting as if he were suddenly guarding a secret treasure. I sensed the change, the way he closed off, as if the man before him was a reminder of the vulnerability he held at bay. "What do you need?" I asked the stranger, stepping between them instinctively. The man looked surprised. "I just need some food. I haven't eaten in days." His voice cracked, revealing the weight of his hunger and despair. Before I could process my own impulse, the man beside me flicked open his wallet and pulled out a handful of bills. He reached out, handing it to the stranger, but his expression was tight, conflicted. "I'm sorry, I can't do more," he said. The stranger's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you. It's more than I had before." As he turned to leave, I felt the gravity of his struggle echo in my own heart. Once he slipped away, my gaze snapped back to the man beside me, his expression a mix of irritation and guilt. "Why did you do that?" he snapped, the words laced with tension. "Because he needed help," I shot back, voice steady, but my insides churned. "Isn't that what we're talking about? Helping others?" He turned away, the sharp edges of his frustration piercing the air between us. "You don't understand. This is bigger than you know," he replied, his voice cold. In that moment, as the warmth between us flickered dangerously close to extinguishing, I realized that the path we were on was fraught with unspoken truths and hidden scars. I was taking a leap of faith with a man who bore burdens no one could see, and then, as if to amplify the tension, a woman rushed past us, her face pale, eyes wild with fear. "They're coming for him," she screamed, stumbling backward, glancing at us in sheer panic before disappearing around the corner. In that instant, my heart raced. I turned to him, panic bubbling to the surface. What did she mean? Who's coming? There was a storm brewing between us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our connection would soon be tested in ways I couldn't begin to understand, and as uncertainty fluttered in my chest, one undeniable truth resonated: we were both on a precipice, teetering between light and darkness, and the depths of his past loomed dangerously close. Standing on the corner, I felt as if the world had paused, the air thick with unspoken fears and raw uncertainty. The fiery determination that had propelled me here flickered, caught in the crosshairs of the revelations unraveling before me. My heart thudded in my chest as adrenaline quickly morphed into dread. What did she mean, "They're coming for him"? I repeated, looking up at the man whose name I still didn't know. His face shifted between several emotions: confusion, anger, and a resignation that bore the weight of secrets. "I don't know," he replied, but the tremor in his voice undercut the assertion. I'm not sure who she was. Buta silence filled the space between us. The weight of the moment pressed in, tangled webs of emotions encasing me like strands of a spider's web. My instincts told me to run, but a deeper part of me rooted me to the spot, craving answers, the need to unearth the mystery that had suddenly enveloped us. What is your project really about? I asked, courage inching back into my heart. I wanted to believe in him and the vision he had painted so vividly earlier, but his reaction to the man in need lingered uncomfortably, a growing shadow in my mind that he hesitated, his brow furrowing in thought. What I'm doing, it's about more than just outreach. It's complicated. His voice dipped lower, almost a whisper. It's about creating a network, a safety net for those who aren't seen, those who slip through the cracks of society. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of a precipice, the ground beneath felt so uncertain. But at what cost? I pressed, the words spilling out before I even understood why I asked. I just saw you give money to a man who needed food. How do you reconcile that with whatever world this project lives in? The fire in his eyes dimmed briefly, and I sensed the walls he had constructed beginning to crack. I thought I could just help people, he muttered, as if startling himself with the admission. But the system is rigged. I'm trying to change it against people who don't want it to change. Sometimes, you have to play in the shadows to make the light shine. If they find out about me, his voice became choked with emotion and he glanced nervously around us as if the shadows were alive, listening. Find out what? The question hung heavy in the air, dripping with anxiety. He looked distant, his gaze lingering far beyond our conversation. I'm not just a businessman. I've learned things. Things about the people who manipulate this city. They don't just control the money, they control lives. And anyone who threatens that can disappear. Fear welled inside me, each heartbeat pulsating through my brain like a warning siren. Is that what happened to the woman who just ran by? Are you in danger? There are risks in every choice, he replied, a tightness in his voice that hinted at a depth of experience only gained through pain. That's why I need you. To help me stay grounded. To help those who don't have a voice. But before I could respond, our conversation was interrupted. A figure emerged from the shadows over the street, their silhouette indistinct yet imposing. The moment stretched, every moment of vulnerability I had shared with him now hanging in the balance. That I need you to trust me, he said suddenly, urgency creeping into his tone. Trust? In what exactly? The words slipped out, my voice quaking beneath the weight of doubts. You haven't told me who you are or what's really happening. He took a step closer, urgency etching lines around his eyes. I'm doing everything I can to help us both. But I can't put you in danger. You need to decide if you're willing to accept this reality. He gestured to the stranger's sudden absence, the remnants of my connection with him now feeling like a fragile thread ready to snap. The figure in the shadows moved closer, revealing a face I recognized from a picture in a news article. A local entrepreneur wrapped in scandal, someone I'd seen portrayed as more monster than man. Panic surged through my veins as I took a step back, realization crashing into me like a tidal wave. My heart raced, each beat mirroring my growing fear. All these risks and choices loomed over me like dark clouds, threatening to engulf everything I had known. Evelyn, he said, grasping my shoulders firmly. They're here. You need to trust me. You can't turn back now. Just as the tension peaked, another loud shout echoed through the street, this time a voice I recognized. It was my sister, Evelyn. Don't you dare take her. Frozen in place, a storm brewed within me, caught between the man who promised change and the sister who indicated my past. I stared between the two, our fates intertwined like threads in a tapestry of uncertainty. What was I willing to compromise for the promise of meaning? With a shove of urgency, my path was clearer than ever, yet the storm brewing only deepened the mystery and burden I was about to bear. And as the figure loomed larger, my heart began to shatter into pieces, caught in the crossfire of a dangerous game. What was about to unfold could change everything. The screams of my sister echoed through the dimly lit street like a piercing siren, stark against the chaotic backdrop of my spiraling emotions. Evelyn, don't. I shouted back instinctively, my pulse thrumming in my ears as the magnitude of the moment hung heavily over us. The man standing in front of me, the enigma whose secrets I was still trying to unravel, shot me a look that mixed desperation and resolve. "What are you doing here?" His voice was both fierce and protective, eyes darting between my sister and me, snapping with urgency. "You need to get out of here, now." "Nikki, don't move," my sister called, her breath coming fast, but I could see the flicker of fear in her eyes as she took a cautious step forward. She had always been the brave one, a firecracker fueled by righteous indignation and unwavering loyalty. And yet, standing between us now was a man who had painted himself as both a savior and a threat. "I will not let you take her." "Not without a fight." "Hey," I said, forcing myself to sound steady, despite my heart racing. "What's happening?" The urgency in the air intensified, the shadows around us seemed to gather, morphing into a living entity ready to pounce. The millionaire shifted. "Evelino, Nikki, you don't have to get involved. You don't even know what this is about. Now is not the time to explain. They are hunting you," Nikki shot back, her intensity morphing into desperation. "And if you're involved, you put both of us at risk. Whatever game you're playing, you're dragging my sister into a pit of snakes." My breath caught in my throat. A pit of snakes. The metaphor gnawed at me, a visceral reminder of all the unknowns that had suddenly invaded my life. The millionaire stepped between us again, his presence both shielding and suffocating. "This is my battle, not yours. But she may be the key I need to win." "Key?" My sister's words were sharp as knife edges. "You think turning her into a pawn in your twisted game is a solution? I won't let you sacrifice her. You're not some hero, just a guy hiding behind layers of lies and deception." The tension snapped, and as if on cue, the shadows seemed to stretch and vibrate around us. There was something more pressing, more immediate than just our argument. I felt it as a chill, creeping up my spine, an unease that steadied my resolve. "What do you mean sacrifice?" I pressed toward him, searching his eyes, desperate for some clarity in the whirlwind of confusion drenching me. "I didn't mean it like that," he snapped, his voice lowered but edged with the threat of rising emotion. "I meant, I need you to understand that you're intertwined in this in ways you can't see yet. If this doesn't change, the lives at stake are more than just yours. And what about your project?" I pressed. The mistrust festered, blooming like a poisonous flower within me. "You say you want to help, yet, I see someone who is willing to gamble with lives, including my own." In the space between his clipped breaths, he faltered, the shadows that wrapped him seemed to shift like players in a game of chess, and for a brief moment, the man before me cracked, exposing vulnerability beneath the cold exterior. I thought it was enough. Just to make a difference. But what if what I'm really doing is making things worse? The sudden revelation caught him off guard, and Nikki seized the moment, her stance unwavering. "Your intentions don't come close to justifying your actions. We deserve to know exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. You will be dragged into the darkness with me, if you don't," he began, but faltered again, glancing over my shoulder as if sensing an unseen danger in the air. My chest tightened, an instinctual urge to move. I glanced back toward where my sister stood, solidarity in her fierce expression fueling my spirit. "What do you know?" I forced out, only to find the shadows constricting around us, shadows that morphed into shapes of what felt like an approaching tempest. "I know they've been watching," he replied, his voice strained. "I know they've passed judgment, and their reach is farther than you think. But before he could elaborate, there was a sudden surge of movement down the street. Figures emerged, their faces obscured by the night, but the tension wrapped between us felt palpable, an electric charge that threatened to snap. Panic surged like wildfire in my veins as my instincts screamed for escape. "Nikki, we need to go." "No, wait," she yelled, defiance drenching her voice as she stepped closer toward the unknown strangers. What if we loud crash resonated further down the street, causing us all to jump, but it was the sight of a dark SUV screeching to a halt that sent my blood running cold. Doors flung open, and figures flooded out, urgency pulsing through them as they barreled toward us. The rush of adrenaline surged, pushing clarity towards fear. Run! The command left my lips unbidden, past the haze of a burgeoning revelation. The man grasped my arm, eyes wide with understanding wrapped in instinct. Trust me. He shouted urgently, casting a glance at the figures approaching. I looked at Nikki, shared a moment of silent understanding, the weight of our decisions crystallizing into a shared, fleeting bond. As we turned to flee, I felt the stitches of my life pull taut, everything I knew unraveling under the storm of what was yet to come. The taste of the unknown on my tongue felt like metal, sharp and unforgiving, and just as we dashed into the cover of darkness, something deep and unsettling settled in my gut. I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle had only just begun, and that in the chaos unfolding, the lines between hero and villain had blurred irreparably, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear the echoes of voices that sprung from the darkness, chasing after us like specters calling out with an urgency that mirrored my own heart's desperate pleas. The pounding of my heart echoed in my ears, syncing with the sound of footsteps behind us as we navigated the narrow alleyways, shadows a constant presence. Each corner we turned felt like a descent into a deeper void, filled with uncertainty and fear. Next to me, the millionaire, his name still eluding me, led the way, his grip on my arm firm yet reassuring, like a lifeline tethering me to a reality I struggled to comprehend. That we skimmed past walls splattered with graffiti that seemed to taunt us with their vibrant, reckless energy, a stark contrast to the chilling dread enveloping us. This way, he urged, pulling me down another narrow path, and Nikki, steadfast as always, followed closely behind, her breath coming in sharp, desperate bursts. Every heartbeat carried the weight of unspoken questions. What were we running from? What secrets lay tangled in the threads of this chaos? The answers felt tantalizingly close yet impossibly far, suspended in a thick haze of confusion. A pit of dread formed in my gut, tightening with every echo of footsteps from our pursuers. Why are they after you? I asked between gasps, trying to piece together a reason that could align with the inexplicable turmoil I was thrust into. The murmur of my voice barely broke the suffocating silence around us. His face remained somber, eyes darting across the flickering shadows that danced in the dim light. Because I know too much. I didn't just stumble into this, I made choices that led to a dangerous game I never wanted to play. Choices? Is that all it was? Nikki spat out, the strength in her voice imbued with a righteous fury. People's lives hang in the balance because of those choices. I didn't choose this. None of us did. He turned sharply, the anguish etching lines of conflict on his marred face. But I'd rather fight than just lie down and take it. I can't let anyone else pay the price for my mistakes. As we rounded another corner, the quarter-lit street revealed an unexpected sight: an elderly woman standing by a stoop, her weathered face illuminated by a soft glow. She was clutching a worn-out blanket, eyes wide, a mixture of concern and resolve etched into her features. Come here. Quickly. She called, her voice laced with an authority that cut through our panic. Without hesitation, our feet obeyed as she waved us toward her. We ducked beneath the archway she stood under, the scent of baking bread and something sweet wafting from within her cozy home. The door creaked open, and she ushered us in, her hands steadying our frantic movements. Hurry. She insisted, her voice heavy with urgency. They'll find you out there. Safety nestled around us like a warm embrace as the door clicked shut behind us. I leaned against the wall, my breath still ragged, taking in the woman who had interjected herself into our madness. Why are you helping us? I gasped, bewildered by her kindness amidst a storm. Because I've seen darkness lurking in the shadows far too often, she said softly, her gaze steady as it rested on me. And I know what it means to face it alone. You need allies, even unexpected ones. I wanted to ask her what kind of darkness she had faced, but just then, a sharp knock rattled the door, sending a fresh wave of panic crashing over me. They're here. Nikki exclaimed, her voice a mix of fear and determination. The man hustled to the window, peering through the slats as he strained to catch a glimpse. We need to stay quiet, he whispered, urgency rising like a crescendo. It felt like the weight of our choices settled heavily on my shoulders, a crushing reality that resonated through the room. That I can't let anyone else get hurt, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. As I caught his reflection in the darkened window, I saw flashes of regret mingling with a fierce resolve. He understood the price of his actions all too clearly. The elderly woman placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, grounding me with her presence. Sometimes, the most mundane moments can lead to profound changes, she said, her eyes twinkling with a wisdom that stretched beyond years. You have to trust in that, even when it feels impossible. But the knock intensified, each impact resonating with the rising tension in my heart. Please, I murmured, tell me there's a way out of this quiet. The man hissed, tension coiling tightly within his frame, as moments stretched into an agonizing eternity. My heart raced at the thought of the danger lurking outside. Would we become the next victims of a world we barely understood? The woman squeezed my shoulder reassuringly, her grip like a lifeline. Hold on to hope, dear. You won't be alone in this fight. Just as I began to feel that gentle warmth seep into my soul, the door suddenly splintered under heavy blows. I instinctively flinched, my heart sinking. Hope felt so fragile in that moment. As the realization hit me hard, our sanctuary was already crumbling. With a final, terrifying crack, the door burst open, shadows flooding into the small space. Framed against the stark light was a figure I never anticipated, a familiar face bearing an expression of chilling urgency. You can't hide forever, they said, voice laced with a revelation that made my blood run cold. And just like that, the world I thought I knew shattered once again, the pieces spilling over with uncertainty and treachery, the kind that twists through the very fabric of trust. The figure standing in the doorway was unmistakable. Jackson, my childhood friend turned high society star, stood there with a mix of anger and desperation flickering in his eyes. I hadn't seen him in years, not since he'd left our small town claiming a future filled with glitter and glamour. But glowing ambition had given way to a haze of confusion, and in him, I found reflections of a shared past that now seemed impossibly distant. Jackson. My voice trembled, bewildered, as if he were a ghost risen from my memories. It was difficult to reconcile the boy I once knew with the man who now possessed a darkness that echoed our current situation. Get out of the way. He barked at the elderly woman, his body tense like a drawn bow, ready to snap. I'm not here to hurt them, but I will if I have to. What are you doing? Do you know what's happening? My voice broke through the tension as I stepped forward, urgency begging for clarity. That I know more than I wish I did. Jackson's gaze faltered as he scanned the room. I was sent to make sure you don't get hurt. By who? I pressed, my heartbeat echoing like a war drum in the heavy silence. Or should I ask who put you in charge? By the same people who are coming for him. Jackson nodded towards the millionaire, who had gone dangerously pale, his mouth thinning into a grim line. You need to listen to me. Before I could respond, the shadows surged forward, their voices piercing through the quiet chaos. We know you're in here. Give him to us, and you won't have to suffer for his mistakes. Run. The man shouted, urgency billowing through him as he shoved me forward. Nikki was already ahead, darting out of reach from the dark figures. The elderly woman stood firm, the weary strength in her eyes contrasting against the terror behind hers. You can't let them take him. She urged, anguish coating her voice. That I hesitated, my heart raged against the pull of survival. But he doesn't deserve this. He's innocent. I'm not innocent, the man whispered hoarsely as he grabbed my arm, pulling me towards the back door. I made choices that put us all in danger. I can't let them get you, too. That I in that moment, with him closest to me and all the chaos closing in, a part of me bristled at his words, the words that echoed back to me in pain. You think you can die for me? It's too late for apologies. The old woman grabbed my other hand, desperation mingling with her strength. Don't let fear drown you. Keep your heart open, that's the only way you'll find your path through the dark. Her words sparked something deep within me, a flicker of defiance feeding my resolve. No. I won't leave him behind. I exclaimed, the conviction roaring louder than the threats outside. Jackson shot me a bewildered look. We can't fight this. You don't understand is far more powerful than you think. Hell destroy everything. The shadows pressed closer, their voices a chorus of impending doom that threatened to swallow us whole. Enough of this. We know he's in here. Come out, or you will both pay .no. I cried. We're not going anywhere. With a fierce clarity coursing through me, I broke free of the woman's grip and moved toward the front door, a tempest of emotion pushing me to confront the darkness. You want him? You'll have to come through me first. Jackson's eyes widened in disbelief as his pulse quickened. What are you doing? Stay back, I'm not going back to being a bystander. I shouted, the retort embracing my fear, letting me stand taller. I may not know how to fight, but I refuse to be a pawn in anyone's game. The door shattered open, and in that brief moment of exposure, the overwhelming darkness closed in like a thick fog, swallowing the light from my resolve. A mass of looming figures enveloped the room, but among the chaos, I caught a glimpse of something more, a shard of hope, flickering defiantly against the tempest. Before fear could take root, I caught sight of a face I had not expected, the old woman stepping forward, casting aside her meekness like an old cloak. You will not take them, she warned, her voice steady, imbued with the power of unseen battles fought over a lifetime. In that strange moment, the darkness hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty sparking on the edges of their menacing figures. I held my breath, realizing that this was no longer just about a millionaire caught in a dangerous web. It was about all of yous, about unearthing hidden strengths and forging connections amidst the brutal chaos. But just as I felt the tides shift, something unexpected jolted through the crowd, causing murmurs of alarm to ripple like a stone cast in water. From the corner of my vision, a flash of light sliced through the darkness, drawing my attention irresistibly. And as the shadows recoiled, a familiar face appeared among them, eyes blazing with intent that cut through the confusion. Surprise, he said, a smirk playing on his lips that ignited a tumultuous wave of emotions within me. I'm back to collect what's mine. At that moment, the world tilted on its axis. My heart plummeted into an abyss of betrayal and confusion, the very trust one clung to fracturing like glass beneath the weight of revelation. As the figures shifted and the room spun with uncertainty, I realized that everything and everyone I thought I knew was poised on the edge of a storm, ready to break. The air crackled with tension as the unexpected arrival slid back into my reality, pulling me from the chaos that surrounded the crumbling world I thought I understood. Familiarity washed over me, but it was tinged with a bitter edge. Caleb. The very name drew forth waves of memories, a currency of moments shared that felt all too distant now. What are you doing here? I demanded, the questions bubbling over my lips unchecked. You're a part of this? Why would you just stand there, offering me a smirk when everything is falling apart? The old woman shielded her eyes, her stance firm but her hands trembling slightly at the unbelievable sight of Caleb. Yet, there he was, exuding a confidence that shattered the remnants of my youthful admiration for him. He acted as though he owned every flickering shadow that littered the room. I came back for you. For us, Caleb declared, his voice echoing in the fragile air. But I could see it now, beneath the bravado, his eyes flickered with something else, shadows of truths withheld. I know I've been gone, but I'm here to end this, to see it through. That I don't want your help. I shouted, fighting against a cascade of emotions that threatened to drown me. You abandoned us. You abandoned me. The words were sharp as knives, slicing through the air thick with tension. Jackson stepped forward, the rage and hurt in his gaze a stark contrast to the measure of calm pooled within Caleb's demeanor. You think you can just waltz back in and make everything right? You're part of the problem. Caleb's smirk faltered at the darting lash of accusation. You think staying away was easy for me? This isn't just about the bratty things of our past, there's so much more at stake than any of us realized. The shadows lurked, subdued yet hungry, their collective patience wearing thin. They had sensed the weakness in us and were waiting, but for what? The unknown coiled like a predator around us, and I felt panic creep in. What do you mean? I interjected, a flicker of curiosity finding its way through my storm of anger. The old woman beside me released my hand, moving closer to the unfolding scene, as if she, too, believed in the need for clarity. I came across information, secrets kept from us at every turn, Caleb continued, his voice steadying. They're not just coming after the millionaire, it's the power we all hold. They want to erase anyone who stands in their way, those who dare to fight against the darkness. His words lodged deep, painting for me an unseen battle of wills that circled over us like a predatory bird seeking prey. I cast a glance at the millionaire, who stood silent and shaken, an unwitting pawn amid this chaotic chess game. My mind raced. Was he truly innocent, or just another piece designed to attract the tumult around us? The air grew heavy with suspicion and unspoken truths. I could feel my heart blurting out the question that hovered like a dark cloud, "How do you know all of this?" Before Caleb could respond, the advancing darkness revived, fueled by the scent of fear and betrayal. "Enough of this nonsense!" one of the figures bellowed, stepping forward, clad in shadows. "You think you're safe here? You're nothing but a nuisance. Hand him over, and I promise we'll make your death quick. No harm to the bystanders, you can't scare us." I found myself shouting instinctively, my voice rising above the fear. But in that moment, my bravado cracked, unraveling like a poorly spun thread. There was a softness at the edges of my resolve as uncertainty snaked through me, overpowering my courage, but then, something unexpected transpired. A sudden surge of warmth radiated from the depths of my heart. The old woman, her hands raised, began to whisper words to the universe, so faint yet filled with ancient wisdom. A quiet confidence sparked within her ancient frame, fading the shadows with a gentle yet unyielding glow. "Together, we stand," she uttered, her voice unwavering. "You all carry strength beyond what you can perceive. Do not allow fear to cloud your purpose." The figures hesitated as the light crept through the surrounding chaos. It wasn't merely a physical light, it was hope being rekindled, a flickering flame that begged to grow bright enough to reclaim what was lost. That I turned to Jackson, each of us wrestling with the weight of the storm brewing around us. Trust was a fickle thing, yet in the depth of chaos and carnage, our connection flared into something solid. "We can fight them," I asserted, rallying the courage that lay dormant until now. Caleb stepped forward, conviction cementing his brows as he addressed us. "But we need to work together. If we are going to survive this, we must expose their weaknesses. Trust must come first." Unsure, I looked between Caleb and Jackson, torn between the past we shared and the betrayal that lingered in both their eyes. Would their rekindled alliance hold against the rising tide of darkness? And then, just as the first light began to nestle its way through the cracks, a shattering noise erupted from behind. The millionaire's limp body fell to the ground, the darkness pooling around him like a broken promise. As his wide, terrified eyes met mine one last time before fading into oblivion, despair settled like a dense fog in my chest. I could feel my heart clench. The stakes were higher than I had imagined, and the darkness was closer than ever, hungry for our hope. Our fight had only just begun, yet with every passing second, my world slipped closer to the precipice of despair, where betrayal thrived, and trust hung by a thread. "Now," I breathed, heart pounding, "we either fight or lose everything." As I stood there, the resonance of the millionaire's lifeless form struck a heavy blow against the walls of my resolve. What had once seemed like a fleeting moment of hope, a spark ignited by the old woman's words, now faced an avalanche of doubt. I hadn't just lost the symbolic figure of power standing against the dark, I had lost another fragile strand of belief that we could somehow emerge intact. Jackson's eyes darted from the fallen millionaire back to me, betrayal and fear tangled in the depths of his gaze. "What have we done?" he murmured, the dread in his voice echoing my own thoughts. Caleb stepped forward, his expression shifting from confidence to urgency, and I could see the weight of responsibility pressing heavily upon him. "We didn't do this. We didn't ask for it. But it's not just about us anymore, it's about the lives that hang in the balance." The shadows, previously momentarily subdued, now loomed around us with renewed ferocity, hungrily seeking our fear, our disarray. I could feel their presence invading the air, cold and oppressive, weaving through the room with a sinister grace. And yet, under that oppressive weight, something else stirred within me, a determination I didn't know I had, that we had each lost something of value in this fight. Caleb had lost his purpose, Jackson his faith, and I faced the terrifying prospect of losing everything I held dear. I took a breath, forcing my trembling voice through the whirlwind of emotions that collided within. We won't let this define us. We need to find out what they want, what they're afraid of. We have to turn this around. Caleb nodded, and though I had not yet forgiven him for his abandonment, I realized he was right in the thick of it, alongside Jackson and me. What if that old woman knows something? I suggested, glancing over my shoulder at her, still chanting softly, addressing the shadows surrounding us with a resolve I hoped to emulate. As if she sensed my thoughts, her eyes flicked to me, and a faint smile broke through the lines of her weathered face. Child, the power lies not in the strength of the light or darkness around us, but in the heart that beats within each of you. Trust it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet strong and unyielding. In that moment, I felt a heartbeat, a rhythmic pulse of determination surging through our small circle. Jackson faced Caleb, his jaw set. If we're going to do this, we need to be clear about the stakes. We'll need to trust each other completely. For a fleeting second, the air shifted, and I could sense a surge of solidarity enveloping us. For every heart that beats for hope, a flicker of courage ignited among the shadows. Caleb turned to me, his steel blue eyes searching for an answer. Are you in this with us? All the way. I took a moment, replaying my fractured memories that threaded through every heartbeat shared with him and Jackson. They were tangled and messy, but in the face of unrelenting chaos, I couldn't afford to cling to the past. Yes. I'm in, I replied, conviction drumming steadily in my chest, drowning out the lingering doubts. Suddenly, the shadows stirred, a whisper of wind sending chills down my spine as the figures that had remained dormant slithered forward, darker than before, almost sentient in their collective malice. Too late, one of them hissed, its voice low and guttural, echoing through the thickening dread. You're too late to change the game. You've already lost. Before I could comprehend the severity of those words, an explosion of sound erupted from the shadows, jolting me violently. An unseen force knocked me back, the world blurring around me, the echoes of my friends' shouts fading into nothingness. Just as quick as I was thrown, everything went black. When I regained my senses, I was sprawled on the cold floor, the remnants of my reality flickering as the chaos settled into a faint murmur. I blinked a few times, struggling to piece together the fragments of what had just happened. Panic curled in my stomach when I realized the old woman was no longer amongst us. Caleb. Jackson. My voice echoed against the stone walls. But silence answered back, cold and enveloping. My heart raced as I pulled myself to my feet, scanning the darkened room for any sign of them. A foreboding thought crept in. Had the shadows taken them? Perhaps they were determined to unravel this fragile trust we had tentatively forged. Just as I turned to check the entrance, a flicker of movement drew my eye, and I froze. A cloaked figure stepped into the dim light, face obscured but familiar enough to make my heart drop. Looking for someone? Caleb's voice emerged from behind the dark cloak, but it sounded wrong, tainted, layered with coldness I hadn't heard before. No, I whispered, dread coiling tighter in my chest. You don't have to do this. His head tilted, and the smile that graced his lips felt like a chasm opening beneath me. Oh, but I do. You see, dear friend, the game has changed, and I'm no longer on your side. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. Trust, friendship, everything we had fought for was hanging by the thinnest thread, and as Caleb shifted closer, the shackles of my heart tightened. I never imagined you would betray me, Caleb. Not now. Not after everything. His eyes glimmered with a twisted promise as the shadows continued to gather around us. You should have known better. Now, let the real game begin. As the darkness enveloped me again, I was left to wonder if any of us would again see the light. The darkness clung to me like a second skin, wrapping around my thoughts and squeezing them into a suffocating silence. I could feel the icy tendrils of despair weaving through my mind, erasing the warmth of the solidarity we had formed moments before. The air was thick with a tension I had never known. Caleb was no longer just my friend but now felt like a ghost of the man I once trusted. As shadows swirled in the periphery, my breaths quickened, each inhale rasping against the panic that clawed at my throat. Caleb, I croaked, seeking a glimmer of the person I had known. This isn't you. Fight it. Whatever they've done to you, you can overcome it. He stepped further into the dim light, the cloak billowing like a dark cloud. You always were the optimist, he replied, his voice laced with a chilling mirth. But hope has no power here. It's a waste of energy, my dear. With those words, I felt something within me shift, an ember of resistance igniting against the encroaching darkness. You're wrong, I declared, my voice gaining strength as I clung to my belief. Hope is a force greater than any shadow. If we stand together, we can fight this. A flicker of hesitation crossed Caleb's face, the shadow of his former self breaking through for a heartbeat. But it vanished, replaced by a malevolent resolve. You still don't understand. It's not about us anymore, don't you see? This is a game for survival, and those who cling to the light are destined to fall. Just then, a soft, flickering light appeared at the corner of the room. At first, I thought it was a trick of my mind, a desperate illusion conjured by fear. But as I turned toward it, the light grew brighter, illuminating the space with a warmth that felt almost tangibly a promise, perhaps, sent to guide me through the shadow that I hesitated, torn between the familiar figure before me and this emerging vision of hope. Caleb, what if no? He cut me off, raising a hand. You must choose this moment wisely. What is it that you truly want? To save me and complete the folly you cling to, or to save yourself from the inevitable darkness? My heart twisted painfully as I considered his words. But beneath the surface of my anxiety, anger rose up like a tide. You are still in there, Caleb. I refuse to believe you would choose this darkness over all we've built together. In that split second, his eyes widened, and a flicker of something human leaked through, a heartbreak, a yearning, before a wave of shadows surged to envelop him again. You'll only hurt yourself for this foolish hope. Don't let them take you too, he warned, voice trembling with desperation that bespoke more than just loyalty to the shadows. Yet my resolve sharpened. I took a small step forward, toward the light that pulsed with vitality. I won't leave you like this. I will find a way to bring you back, to save you. This isn't over. Then, from the threshold, another figure emerged, one I recognized instantly. A pang of warmth rushed through me like a cold breeze chasing away heat. It was Jackson. He stumbled into view, his gaze darting between Caleb and me, sensing the tension that crackled in the air. What happened? What did you do to him? Jackson's voice was edged with a mixture of fury and desperation. It's not what I did, but what he's become, Caleb spat, bitterness seeping through each syllable. You two are so fixated on the light that you failed to see the truth of this world. You embrace the very thing that will lead to your ruin. I refuse to accept that. Jackson shot back, fervor igniting his posture as he stepped toward me. We're stronger together, Caleb. You can't just abandon us. And in that moment of collective vulnerability, when the light surged between us, I felt the tightness in my chest loosen ever so slightly. It illuminated something deeper than just a shared desire to escape the darkness. There was love, there was sacrifice, and most importantly there was hope. But as Caleb's expression darkened, filled with indecipherable turmoil, I could see that this wasn't just about us anymore. The shadows had become more than mere figures of fear, they were the embodiment of our unspoken doubts, our unacknowledged pain. Trust the darkness to reveal your truest self, he murmured, not in anger, but with an uncanny sincerity. But remember, the price of salvation is often steep. Before I could respond, the flickering light shrank away, pushing back the shadows that clawed desperately for dominance. And with it, I realized that our decisions would bind us either to hope that would fuel our fight or to the darkness that desperately sought to consume us. The dark whispers grew louder, a sudden crack echoed through the room, and the floor beneath us trembled violently. Take the chance, I yelled above the rising din. We can still save each other, but I could see Caleb wavering, swallowed by uncertainty. Another tremor jolted the ground beneath us, shadows swirling like a tempest around my two friends as a fierce wind tousled our hair. I had to act, had to risk everything. Caleb, I believe in you. In us. Don't you remember who we are? For a moment, time suspended, a fragile breath caught between light and shadow. And then the world exploded into chaos, as all at once, I understood that the next choice could shatter everything. Would we embrace the light, or succumb to the dark? Then there was nothing but blackness, as our desperation reached its peak, and in that choking stillness, a familiar sensation washed over me, a fleeting memory of laughter shared, hearts intertwined in defiance. But just as quickly, it faded, like ashes in the wind. The final revelation twisted in my gut. The shadows had no intention of letting go without making sure we truly believed in the light, but at what cost would we have to pay to fight this battle? In the ensuing darkness, whispers of doubt circled like vultures, clawing at my resolve, but a spark remained ignited deep within me. I could feel it pulsing, an ember I refused to extinguish. Caleb stood before me, his familiar features now overshadowed by an impenetrable cloak of malevolence. The agony of betrayal and desperation fused in my chest, suffocating me, yet in not one betrayed breath did I falter in my defiance. I believe in who you are, Caleb. I know you're still in there. The shadows stirred, creeping nearer as if sensing the flicker of determination rising between us. You don't understand, Nikki, Caleb whispered, each word laced with a shuddering weight. They're not just shadows, they're my mistakes, my past, the parts of myself I tried to outrun. I can't go back. A flicker of the boy I had once known glimmered in his eyes, a momentary break in the darkness that bound him. Who says you have to go back? I implored, stepping closer, pushed by a force of yearning for the friendship we had forged. What if we embraced our mistakes instead? Let them teach us rather than haunt us. The shadows hesitated momentarily, as if considering my words. The air felt charged, trembling with the tension of raw emotions, a battlefield upon which every ounce of doubt had the potential to fracture or bind us in unity. Jackson moved beside me, his voice a steady wave crashing through the storm. The past can't define you if you choose to rewrite your own story, Caleb. This darkness isn't your fate, it's just a chapter. The air shifted again, a ripple of recognition sweeping through Caleb's features, momentarily shaking the hold the shadows had over him. The cruelty of a guarded heart began to loosen. You really believe that? He asked, vulnerability almost shimmering in his voice, a desperate hope surfacing through the tangled mess of doubt. Yes, I replied, power swelling in the pit of my stomach, fueled by the trust forged in this group we had intertwined. I believe in our fight, in our collective strength, in forgiveness. Light only breaks through when we dare to believe in it, especially when we feel the shadows closing in. Caleb's expression softened, an echo of his younger self flickering against the encroaching shadows. With every heartbeat, it felt as if he was teetering on the edge of acceptance. But before we could solidify that connection, the darkness surged forward, roaring with rage, eager to reclaim their lost grip. Enough of this folly. You're all fools if you think feelings can save you. One of the figures hissed, slashing through the air like a blade. In that moment, the urgency propelled me closer, a desperate leap toward Caleb. If we're going to fight this together, we need to step into that light as one. Trust me, trust us. I reached for him, extending a hand, heart pounding in rhythm with the power of unity slowly weaving between us. We can't let them control our destiny. Forgive yourself, Caleb, and let's rise above it. Together, something shifted in the air. The shadows faltered again, uncertainty flickering through their malice. Caleb's eyes, once schooled in darkness, were wide and reflecting the glimmer of hope I clung to for dear life. Together he echoed softly, his voice shaky as he took a small step forward. Then, without warning, a surge of light blossomed, bright and blinding, unfurling like dawn breaking the grip of night. We stood closer now, our hands intertwined, hearts synchronizing in a dance against the overwhelming tide of shadows surging at our heels. The warmth enveloped us, wrapping us in a cocoon shimmering with resolve, as if the universe itself acknowledged our connections. In that illuminating moment, it felt as though our very beings resonated with forgiveness both for ourselves and for the paths we had wandered through, storms of regret and fear. And there, within the embrace of the light, the shadows began to disperse, as if recoiling from the fierce love burning amongst us. You can't show mercy. You cannot forgive. Their voices clawed, rising from the depths of their fury, but we stood resolute, unyielding. Allowing the light to draw us all into its embrace. We do forgive, I declared, feeling waves of warmth and conviction pulse between us. We believe in the force of unity over fear and anger. And with one unified thrust, we emerged, light enveloping us, cascading around like a cascading waterfall against the shadows threatening to crush us. A collective thunder of voices rang out, a symphony of shared strength that reverberated through the air and shattered the chains of despair. Then suddenly, the shadows shrieked, swirling like a tempest, breaking apart, dispersing as the light chased them back into nothingness. No! They cried, their essence trembling, vanishing into the ether as if the very truth of our unity rendered them powerless. As the chaos subsided, the clamoring darkness faded into silence, leaving us in the stillness of a softened light. Caleb stood before me, teetering on the edge of something I could not fully comprehend. The path to redemption was not clear, but in that moment, I felt a fragile, precious hope wrapped in the echoes of our shared battle. Thank you, he whispered, words laced with the gravity of realization. I needed you to fight for me. Before I could respond, Jackson stepped forward, camaraderie flickering like flames igniting. We needed each other. Always. As we basked in the remnants of our hard-won triumph, I caught sight of an elderly figure approaching the old woman, embodying the courage that had kindled our resolve. Her presence was a warm reminder of solidarity against the trials we faced. You've all done well, she said, pride dancing in her eyes. Together, you can forge ahead, beyond the heavy weight of doubt and darkness. Will we? I asked, uncertainty threading through my heart at the thought of what lay ahead. You will, she assured softly, but it starts here, with acceptance and love. That's your true beginning. A wave of understanding swelled within me. It wasn't merely about defeating the shadows, it was about reclaiming ourselves, embracing our mistakes and transforming them into lessons of resilience and forgiveness. Together, we took a step forward into the unknown, a world waiting to be rewritten by our hands. It wasn't all clear, the path still veiled in uncertainty, but it was ours. And for the first time, the future felt like a canvas waiting for our strokes, each color vibrant and full of life. And in that pivotal moment of realization, our hearts swayed in synchrony with the echoing whisper of potential. Together, we will find our way. Those words hung in the air, a promise settled upon us, reverberating within our souls, instilling strength to face whatever may lay ahead. And as we stepped into the light, I felt the warmth wash over me, a reassurance that we would weave this tale with immense purpose, one filled with passion, hope, and an unbreakable bond of love. As we walked away from the shadows behind us, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere beyond the road ahead lay the beauty of new beginnings, possibilities flourishing from our very own hearts. The echoes of doubt have been silenced, but here we were, ready to embrace whatever life had to offer. And in the end, that was all I had ever truly wanted to remember, that even when darkness looms, the heart can always find its way home.